Welcome to HFY Codex. If you love epic sci-fi stories where humanity shines, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for thrilling HFY adventures. Join us and be part of the journey. The human on the brink of death, the sky was red and broken as fire rained from above. Mark lay on the ground, bleeding, his body half buried in ash and shattered metal. His right leg was twisted, his armor cracked, and his breath came in short. Sharp gasps. All around him were the remains of his squad-burned gear. Blood trails and silence. The enemy had come fast, with strange weapons and no warning. He had run, fought, screamed, and survived barely. He pressed his hand to his wound, trying to stop the blood. But it felt useless. His eyes were heavy, and the world began to spin slowly like a dying machine. He reached for his comlink, whispering for help, but it only sparked and went silent. Everything was broken, even hope. That's when the humming started soft and strange, like a song made of light. Mark turned his head slowly, thinking it was a dream. From the burning trees, a tall figure stepped into the open. Glowing with soft blue light, she was not human. But not terrifying either. She had silver skin that shimmered like moonlight and eyes that looked like calm oceans. She walked toward him with care, like he might vanish if she moved too fast. She knelt beside him and held up a small crystal vial. Filled with glowing blue liquid, her voice was soft, almost like a whisper inside his head. "If you want healing," she said, "just close your eyes." Mark wanted to ask who she was, what she meant, or how she found him. But the pain was stronger than his words. He stared at her, unsure if she was real or a vision. Then he closed his eyes. Darkness came, soft and warm. No pain, no sound, just drifting when he woke up again. He was lying on something soft, not the cold ground. A warm light filled the space around him. Like he was inside a living room made of plants. The walls pulsed gently with light, and the air smelled like flowers and clean rain. He tried to sit up, but his muscles were weak. Beside him, the silver-skinned woman sat quietly, holding a bowl of the same blue liquid. "You are safe now," she said gently, but still healing. Mark touched his chest and felt only smooth skin where the wound had been. It was impossible. No human medicine worked this fast. What did you give me?" he asked, his voice rough and dry. She held the bowl closer. "It is my milk," she said without shame. "It heals." Mark blinked. Confused. "Milk?" he repeated. Not sure he heard right. "Yes," she said. "From my body. My kind was born to heal others." Mark looked at her again. Really looked. She had no armor, no weapons. Only a long flowing wrap made of glowing threads. She looked calm, peaceful, but something in her eyes was heavy, like she carried a weight. "Why help me?" he asked. "I'm just a soldier, a human," she smiled faintly. "Because your kind once helped one of mine." Mark didn't understand. But he didn't argue. The pain was fading fast, and his body felt stronger with each breath. Still, he could feel something else's heart beating faster when she was near. Her presence was calming, yet strange, like she wasn't just healing his body, but touching his soul. She stood and began to stir another bowl of the glowing milk. Her hands moved with care, like every drop mattered. Mark watched her in silence, wondering if this was real or a dream built from death. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked over her shoulder and replied, "Navera." He tried to smile, but his face hurt. "I'm Mark," he said. She nodded as if she already knew. Navera sat beside him and offered another sip. He hesitated, then drank, feeling warmth spread through his chest. As the silence grew between them, Mark whispered, "What happens now?" She looked down, avoiding his gaze. "You rest," she said softly, "and I protect you from my people." Mark's heart skipped. "Wait, your people?" Navara looked at him with sadness in her eyes. They won't understand why I saved you. Mark opened his mouth to speak, but a shadow passed over the glowing roof. Navarra stood quickly, tense, her body ready. Outside, strange sounds echoed like distant wings and buzzing energy. "They're close," she said quietly. "Too close." Mark tried to rise. "Then we run," he said. She shook her head. "You can't run yet. Your body is still changing." "Changing?" he asked, alarmed. Navarra didn't answer. Instead, she opened a sidewall in the living structure and motioned him in. A soft pod opened like a flower worm, pulsing and safe. "Hide here," she said. "They must not see you yet." Mark climbed in slowly, his eyes on her the whole time as the pod closed. He heard her whisper again, "If you want healing, just close your eyes." Then everything turned blue, and silence returned. Secrets in the flesh. The pod opened slowly as soft light poured in. Mark blinked and looked up, his body no longer aching. The walls of the shelter pulsed gently, and the scent of healing herbs floated in the air. He sat up, expecting to see Navarra nearby, but she wasn't there. Only silence and a strange feeling in his chest remained. His heartbeat was louder than before, deeper, almost like a drum inside his bones. Mark stepped out and looked at his hands. The cuts were gone. His skin was smoother, tighter, and faintly glowing. He took a deep breath, and his senses stretched. Farther than normal, he could hear the crackling of distant trees, the flight of insects, and even Navarra's soft footsteps returning from the forest. She entered, carrying a bowl of glowing water and a bundle of plants. When she saw him standing, fully awake, her eyes widened slightly. "You woke early," she said. "Your body is responding faster than I expected." Mark didn't smile. He was too focused on the truth he felt in his blood. "Something's happening to me," he said. "I'm not just healing, am I?" Navarra placed the bowl down and sighed. She didn't meet his eyes at first, but her voice was clear. "My milk doesn't only repair," she said. "It rewrites." Mark frowned. "Rewrites what?" "Your body," she whispered. "Your genes." He stepped back, shocked. "You mean I'm turning into one of you?" "Not fully," she said, "but enough." Mark stared at her, anger mixing with fear. "Why didn't you tell me?" Navarra finally looked up, her eyes full of sadness. "Because if I told you before, you would have chosen death." Mark breathed hard, pacing the soft floor. He could feel his strength, but it didn't feel like his anymore. His skin shimmered in the dark corner like hers. "What else is going to change?" he asked. "You'll grow stronger," she said. "Faster, more aware, more alive, but less human." He clenched his fists, not ready for that answer. Navarra stood quietly, letting him feel the weight of the truth. Then she stepped closer and placed a hand on his chest. "You were dying, Mark," she said gently. "I gave you a second life." "But at what cost?" he whispered. She didn't answer that. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Only the soft pulsing of the walls filled the space. Then Navarra turned away and walked to a wall of the shelter with a wave of her hand. A part of the wall opened, showing the outside world. Mark followed her, still silent. He saw the forest glowing with alien beauty plants, alive with light. Small floating creatures drifting through the air. He saw her people in the distant stall, armored, scanning the trees with glowing eyes. "Who are they?" he asked. Navarra's voice was quiet. "My people. The Inari. They don't know I'm here," she said, "but they will soon." "Why are they coming?" he asked. "To retrieve what they believe is sacred," she said, "and to punish me for giving it away." "You mean your milk?" She nodded. "To them, it is holy," she said, "not meant for outsiders." Mark shook his head. "This is insane," he muttered. Navarra turned to face him fully, her eyes glowing gently in the moonlight. "There's more," she said. "Your DNA. It matches the old record." "What record?" he asked. She took a deep breath. thousands of cycles ago. Humans saved a group of my kind from extinction. One of them was my mother, she said. She survived because of a human soldier. That man passed something into the bloodline, something we recorded. And that same genetic key now lives inside you. Mark stared at her, unsure what to feel. You're saying this isn't random? She nodded slowly. You're the reason I exist, she said. And now I've saved you too. Mark leaned against the wall, his mind spinning. He didn't ask for any of this. He was just a soldier, trying to survive, but now he was something more and less. Suddenly, a sharp humming noise filled the air. Red lights flashed through the trees, searching. Navara grabbed his arm. Her voice urgent. They've found us, she said. We have to go. Mark moved with her, his legs stronger than ever. He could run, leap, see in the dark. Every part of him felt alive. They slipped through the glowing woods. Navara looked back at him. If they catch us, they'll take you, she said. They'll tear you apart to learn what I gave you. Mark clenched his jaw. Then let's make sure they never catch us. Together, they vanished into the glowing forest as the Inari search party closed in, but deep inside, Mark could feel something else growing. Not fear, not panic, but power. Something ancient. Something waiting to wake. And it all started with her milk. The healing war asterisk rain fell softly over the glowing trees as Mark and Navara moved through the deep forest. His body no longer felt weak. It moved like it belonged to a warrior born for the stars. Every step was light, every breath was smooth, and his vision cut through the darkness like a blade. But the deeper they ran, the closer the Inari came. Their red searchlights burned through the trees, scanning for heat, movement, and signs of betrayal. Mark grabbed Navara's hand and pulled her behind a wide-rooted tree. She leaned in close, whispering, "They can smell fear, but not hope." He gave a small smile. "Then let's make them choke on it." The sound of boots and buzzing weapons passed just inches away from them. Navara pressed her forehead to Mark's. Closing her eyes, "I should turn myself in," she whispered. "They won't stop until they have me." "No," Mark said firmly. "We don't run anymore." His voice had changed, echoed with strength, with something not entirely human. "They won't believe anything I say," Navara said, her voice shaking. "But maybe they'll listen to you." Mark nodded slowly, his mind already building a plan. They moved toward the nearest Inari outpost. Hidden in the jungle's edge, it was alive, grown from stone and crystal, humming with alien energy. Mark stepped forward, alone, arms raised. Navara stayed behind a tree, watching with wide eyes and a trembling heart. The Inari guards aimed their spears and weapons, their eyes glowing with suspicion. Mark spoke clearly, "I carry your gift." At first, no one moved. Then one warrior stepped closer. "You are human," he growled. "A thief of sacred blood." Mark didn't flinch. He rolled up his sleeve and held out his arm. The skin shimmered, glowing with soft blue light. The warrior gasped and stepped back. More Inari surrounded him, watching in silence. One elder stepped forward, darker, his robes flowing like smoke. "I am Veeth, seer of flesh," he said. "You bear the mark of the sacred bond." Mark nodded. "I didn't steal it," he said. "It was given freely." Veeth narrowed his eyes. "No gift is free." Mark raised his hand and pointed toward the forest. "She saved me," he said, "because once, long ago, a human saved her." "Kind." Veeth's gaze sharpened. "The old records speak of it." "The blood link." Mark stepped forward slowly. "That blood lives in me," he said. "And now her gift lives too." He pulled a small vial from his pouch, single drop of Navara's milk glowing inside. The crowd of Inari murmured as the liquid pulsed in his hand. "Then you must prove it." Veith said. Show us it is not a lie. A child was brought forward. Limp, pale, and barely breathing, she was born weak. Veith said, no healer has saved her. Mark looked at Navara, who had stepped out silently. Her eyes filled with sorrow and hope. She nodded slowly, and he understood. He knelt beside the child, opened the vial, and placed a single drop on her lips. At first, nothing happened. Then her chest rose, and her eyes opened slowly, bright and full of life. The Inari gasped, some dropping to their knees in awe. The child sat up and clutched Mark's arm, her skin glowing where they touched. Veith stared at him, then turned to Navara. You gave the sacred milk to a human, he said, and he has become more than we dreamed. Navara bowed her head. I saw what others would not. Mark rose slowly, lifting the child. You fear what I am, he said. But I didn't come to conquer. I came back from death because she chose life. Veith raised a hand, and the Inari lowered their weapons. This changes everything, the elder said. You are not enemy or stranger. You are bridge. Mark looked around at the glowing faces, then back at Navara. She smiled for the first time in days, but Veith's next words turned the air cold. There are others, he said, old ones, who will not accept this union. They will come for you. Mark nodded slowly. Then we'll be ready. He turned to Navara and said, I won't run again. Navara reached out, her fingers brushing his face. We will heal them, she said softly, one life at a time. Mark looked out at the Inari warriors, now bowing their heads to him. Once a broken soldier, now something more, something new. And for the first time, he understood he was no longer just human. He was living proof of what healing could become. A new kind of doctor. The stars burned brighter over the Inari sanctuary. That night, the jungle had fallen quiet, and the air was thick with new belief. Mark stood at the edge of the glowing village, staring at his reflection in a pool of light water. His eyes no longer looked human, they held a faint blue shimmer. Like Navara's, his skin was tougher, his senses sharper. And yet his heart beat with the same old rhythm. He was still Mark, but he was also something else behind him. Inari children laughed and chased each other under the moon trees. He had healed 3 more since the first, each with only a touch. The elders no longer looked at him with suspicion, but with awe. Still, Mark knew their acceptance was thin like paper. One wrong move, one shadow from the past, and all of this could vanish. Navara joined him quietly, placing her hand in his. You are becoming what they once feared, she said gently, and what they now hope for. Mark looked down at her fingers wrapped around his. I didn't want this, he said, but maybe I was meant for it. She smiled softly, her silver hair glowing in the dark. You were chosen long before you ever landed on this planet. The peace didn't last. A deep horn echoed from the northern hills. Long and cold, Navara stiffened. And Mark turned quickly. The High Guard, she whispered. They come from the sky temples, within moments. Black-cloaked Inari descended from the air. Riding dark beasts that folded into the wind, they landed in silence, armored from head to toe. Their faces covered in mirrored masks, the villagers backed away, frightened. Mark stepped forward as the leader removed her mask, her face sharp and cruel, her eyes like ice. You are the human, she said, her voice like knives. I am Mark, he replied, and I've healed your people. She spat on the ground. With stolen power, Navara stepped forward. He was dying, she said firmly. I gave it freely. The High Guard leader raised her hand, and for that, you will pay. The guards moved to seize Navara. But Mark stepped in front. Touch her, and I'll show you what your fear truly looks like. He warned. The High Guard paused, sensing something different in him. You would threaten us, she asked, in our sacred land. Mark didn't flinch. No, he said. I would defend what gave me life. The leader narrowed her eyes. Then prove your worth. A child was brought forward, wrapped in black cloth, gasping for breath. Born without the voice, the leader said, untouchable by our healers. Mark knelt beside the child. Placing a hand over the trembling chest, he closed his eyes, reaching deep into the change within him. It was no longer just Navara's milk flowing through him. It was memory, kindness, pain, and choice. He let it rise like fire under skin, and pressed it into the child's body. A soft blue light flowed from his fingers, and the child gasped. Then she spoke, her first word ever. Light. The crowd gasped. Even the high guard took a step back. Mark rose slowly, the child clinging to his leg. You call it stolen, he said calmly, but this is shared. The high guard leader stared, her cold armor cracking just slightly. She turned to Navara. You have created something new. Navara nodded. Not created, she said, revealed. The high guard lowered her gaze. This changes the code, she said. This changes everything. Mark spoke again. It's time to stop guarding fear and start spreading healing. The leader slowly bowed, her guards following. The jungle village lit up with song, that night-told songs remade with new names. Mark sat by the fire as Inari children played near his feet. Navara leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. Will you stay? She asked softly. He smiled. Not just stay, he said. We'll go back to Earth together. Her eyes widened. You would show them. He nodded. The war ended, me, but your gift gave me a second start. We'll build a place for both our kinds, somewhere between healing and hope. Navara reached for his hand. And if they reject you, Mark looked up at the stars. Then, I'll heal them anyway, far above. The stars shimmered like eyes, watching the birth of something new. He was no longer just soldier or survivor. He was bridge, healer, protector of light, and wherever pain still lived in the galaxy, he would go there, hand open, heart ready, carrying the gift of life and the milk that saved him.